Mr. Speaker, what is clear about those robbery? The opposition thieving machinery was in full swing. And the honorable member himself was part of those protests, encouraging thievery, beating, and burning of people's vehicles. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, could the
Honourable
honourable
member.
member please provide the evidence to substantiate
Okay,
his
honourable
claims?
member, if you're going
Mr.
to stand on the
Speaker,
point,
there's
honourable
enough
member,
evidence on the social media.
honourable member, Mr. Jafferally, please, 1 minute.
Thank you.
Honourable member, who's standing, if you're going to stand on a point of order, please, I ask that you cite the standing order and state what you're claiming. I don't recognize what you're standing on as a point of order. Honourable member, Mr. Jafferally, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to remind the honourable member I saw him with my own eyes, and that is enough evidence. Mr. Speaker, 5 lorries were burned completely, two filled with paddy at Hope Town and Trafalgar. Mr. Speaker, 7 minibuses were burned completely, 2 pickups. And Mr. Speaker, hundreds of Guyanese were beaten, chopped, bones were broken. Mr. Speaker, the thieving machinery by the opposition imported people to Region 5 to create havoc upon the residents of Region 5.
Honourable member, Mr. Jafferally, I want to caution you, content of speech, 4-1, and imputing any negative motive, unless you have the evidence. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member spoke about oppression, welfare for all Guyanese, and he went on. Well, what's the reality? And he went on to talk about agricultural development in Region 5. Mr. Speaker, he mentioned the model farm. A piece of land, 49.2 acres of land, was useful and beneficially occupied by 60 farmers with permission from the MMA and the Regional Democratic Council. When the APNU AFC took office, they bulldozed these farmers out of the land. And they spent $200 million to develop that farm. Mr. Speaker, this is the reality of the farm. This is the reality of the farm. Grass, bush. And I'm certain the honourable member knows that very well. Very well. I want to pass this picture to have a look at it. That is what they did with the model farm. Denying to over 60 farmers, cash crop farmers, an opportunity to live a life. They and their family were returned, are removed from the farm. Mr. Speaker, they went further. At number 41, 42, rice farmers who had legally occupied the land by lease from His Excellency the President, then President Donald Ramatar. They were taken to court. They were taken to court. These farmers include Tita Joyce, and you know Tita Joyce very well, Pastor Williams. They sought an audience with the honorable leader of the opposition, but no avail. Then they went further, Mr. Speaker, to the cattle farmers of Rampur, who have occupied that land for generation. For generation, those cattle farmers had occupied the land at Rampur. They went and bulldozed these cattle farmers out. I know what they did. They took their land and gave them to their cronies, former Member of Parliament, Jennifer Wayne and others. Mr. Speaker, we and the farmers of Region 5 would like to thank the Honorable Anil Nandalal, who represented them. And these lands were, most of the lands was returned to the farmers. But Mr. Speaker, the honorable member was not paid by the state. He provided a free service to the farmers of Region 5. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member spoke about MMA and rice farmers. Today, under the APNU AFC government, rice farmers in the state of poverty, depression of these rice farmers. Recently, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, the young and dynamic Zulfikar Mustafa, visit a number of communities in Region 5. And when he went to areas, Trafalgar, when he went to number 41 village, the farmers of those communities met with him, and in tears in their eyes, they were worried what will happen to their crop. For 5 years, the canals within the MMA boundary were not desilted. The dams are in passable condition. The minister responded. As I'm speaking to you here, honorable members, Mr. Speaker, 13 machinery is in the backlands of MMA, desilting 245 canals. 245 canals to bring relief to the farmers. Mr. Speaker, the dams are now being graded so to allow rice farmers to bring their crops to the factory. That is what a caring government does. That is what a caring government does, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member spoke about housing. What a shame. Mr. Speaker, to take people's money without providing services is indeed a crime. It is a criminal offense, the honorable member said, and I hope the police can intervene. In 2019, the APNU government had a circus at Fort Wellington, and a number of the de facto ministers sitting here then was in attendance, and they distributed thousands of house lot letters. Mr. Speaker, a mere 3 weeks before the election, the Honorable Ferguson went there, and she continued to distribute these house lots. But Mr. Speaker, when the residents, and they collected the people money, poor people money, nurses money, teachers money, taxi car drivers money, vendors money. And when these people went to locate their house lot, you know what they found? Rice field. They found rice field. One teacher took her letter with the house lot number, and know where she went to from? The burial ground. And Ferguson is good at that. The Honorable Ferguson is good at that. Another teacher went, and he went with his number, and he went to a church. There was no land available in Region 5. It was an election sham. That was an election sham conducted of the people of Region 5 by the then de facto APNU AFC administration. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the APNU AFC government talk about low-income houses, and they're going to build low-income houses for ordinary people. Mr. Speaker, they built 19 units at Experiment in Region 5. Only recently, the Honorable Minister Susan Rodriguez and I visit that area. Not a single unit has been sold. You know why? They are demanding $8.5 billion for a unit of house. 8.5, which is supposed to be a poor man's house. Mr. Speaker, a nurse met the Honorable Minister at Trafalgar, and in tears in her eyes, They collected the nurses' money. And when we water the house, they're all infested. Mr. Speaker, under the PPP government, when His Excellency the President was the Minister of Housing, we built low-cost house, but we sold them for less than $3 million. Because we are caring government, we believe that the poor man has a right in this country. Mr. Speaker, that is what is happening. Absolutely no house development in Region 5. They have not developed a single housing unit, most of the housing scheme. We are confident, as we promised, we will deliver 50,000 house lots during this first, in our term in office. Mr. Speaker, this is what is happening. I'm happy to report that the Honorable Minister has taken a policy decision that we will refund all those money that was collected by the APNU AFC administration. And we will make those people priority on the list, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, after the election is over, Mr. Speaker, and the government is elected, that government must be a government for all the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, when we took office in 1992 and we start rebuilding this country, every year in our budget presentation, we ensure that the resources of this country is spread equally across our country. Number 10, Region 10, Region 7, all the regions, and Region 5 was no different. The APNU AFC government came to office in 2015 with the help of fake statement of poll. Fake statement of poll. You want the evidence? You want the evidence? Fake statement of poll. And the first thing they did, Mr. Speaker, was to increase the salaries of the ministers by hundreds of percent. I know Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, when he was asked, when the Leader of the Opposition was asked, why is it that you've increased your minister's salary by 100%? You know what he said? What was his response? He said, I increased their salary to prevent them from thieving. Corruption, he wants to control corruption among his ministers. Was it money the motivation to serve the people of this country? Was it money the motivation, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we have demonstrated by our records that we have done things equally. But in Region 5, the honorable member spoke about sports development. Yes, they did.
2 minutes warning.
Mr. Speaker, they did, but they left out many communities. They did at Belladrum. They did at Number 5. They did at Hope Town. They did at Hitaka. But Mr. Speaker, what happened to the young people of Bad Settlement? What happened to the young people of Dundee? What happened to the young people of Blaymount and Cotton Tree? Mr. Speaker, he spoke about street lights. The people of Region 5 will never forget when you took away the street lights. When you took away the street lights on Blaymount, Bushlot, Bad Settlement, Woodley Park, Cotton Tree, but you leave those in Ithaca. You leave those in Hope Town. That is a fact, Mr. Honorable Member. Are we going to govern this country like that? That is what this AP and UAFC government has done. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, in the 2020 budget, we have a number, Mr. Speaker, in this brief budget for 2020, Region 5 will see a number of development projects across the region, not in particular area. Rehabilitation of the Chester, Kingley, and El Dorado Falls Sideline Dam. You hear the names, comrades? The honorable members? Rehabilitation of bridges. Rehabilitation of bridges in Yakuba and number 40 village. Mr. Speaker, education, rehabilitation of the Carlton Hall Primary and Nursery School, Maikoni Belladrum School, Bajibal Secondary School. Those
Honorable
substandard
member, you
work.
will need an extension to
Substandard work.
conclude. Honorable member, you will need an extension to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask that the honorable member be given another 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Yes.
Honorable member, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, we are about to build some roads in Region 5. Listen to the areas that the roads will be built. We'll build at Hope, number 8, Lovely Lass, among other villages. Mr. Speaker, we are going to rehabilitate the wards of the Maikoni Diagnostic Center and construction of incinerators at Fort Wellington and Maikoni Hospital. Mr. Speaker, in this brief budget, Mr. Speaker, we have demonstrated that we will be a government for all the people of Guyana. And Region 5 is no exception. We will not behave like the APNU AFC administration, who had no intention in the development of the agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker, in the communities of Maikoni Creek, villages such as High Park, Wash Close, Garden Table, Karamat, Waterdar Creek, and others have not seen a minister of the last administration in 5 years. De facto minister in 5 years. In 5 years. The honorable de facto minister of agriculture then, the farthest he went to Region 5 was Toots Bar in Maikoni. Unlike our Minister of Agriculture, who took the office 3 weeks ago, he already visited 16 communities in Region 5. The Honorable Minister of Local Government, the Honorable Nigel Darmalal, visited 14 communities. The Honorable Minister of Housing, Colin Crowell, and the Minister within the Ministry of Housing made 17 communities visit. The Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs visit 7 communities already in Region 5. This is the way we intend to manage the affairs of Region 5. Not to come here and blow, not to come here and try to tell us that you have done so much under the AP and UAF government, while you did absolutely nothing for the people of Region 5. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, Mr. Speaker, 2020 has been a difficult year for us as Guyanese. We had a government in office at that time, Mr. Speaker, that never showed genuine interest in the development of Region 5. They were aimless, visionless, clueless. They were a set of elitists who were only concerned with themselves and their cabal. Blow. Mr. Speaker, as the PPP has done in the past, We will continue to work in partnership with all stakeholders, the private sector, the producers, the manufacturers, the minibus operators, the millers, the farmers, the fishermen, our healthcare and education delivery workers, our public servants, our rice farmers and sugar workers, vendors to ensure effective delivery of public service to all Guyanese. Particularly in this crucial time, despite this challenging time, Mr. Speaker, our plan for prosperity in this emergency budget 2020 will outline the transformative agenda to ensure a better life for all Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, I fully support Budget 2020. Thank you.